The worst hot takes in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Players have zero concept of game balance and understanding, which is why community feedback should rarely be taken seriously.
Woo!
So today we're going to be reading and reacting to Yu-Gi-Oh! Hot takes. On Twitter I asked for them and I wanted controversial, truly blood-boiling takes.
And I haven't seen any of these hot takes, so this will be my first time reacting to them.
Thumbs up, which means we agree.
First
Down,
time
which
reactions.
means we disagree. Thumbs sideways.
What's that mean?
It means like maybe kind of sorta something
Oh,
in the
okay,
middle.
cool.
Card packs are just straight up gambling, designed to exploit children and impulsive adults. They are IRL loot boxes, a blatantly unethical business tactic that artificially inflates the price of cards and actively makes the game more difficult to play.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like gacha, it's like gambling. It is designed to exploit, prey upon children, and like that, the gambler's fallacy. Yes, you do get cards, right? Like at the end of the day, no matter what, you are getting cards. That is the fundamental difference between card packs and gambling, is that with gambling, you have the potential to just lose everything, right? You have the potential to win zero. Whereas with card packs, technically, you are always getting something. Technically, you are always getting some kind of value, some kind of product. But the question is, like, is the product you get that good? Or is it, like, how much is it more than nothing, right? How much is it more than zero? And sometimes it's not, a lot of the times it's not that much more. But yeah, no, I would say a lot of the times it's not that much more. Same concept as loot boxes. Yeah, it is the same concept as loot boxes. It is not necessarily the same. It's not one-to-one the same as gambling, but it is designed to exploit children. It is basically preying upon like the same parts in our brain that are wired to like card packs and like gambling. So I do think they are predatory, but at the same time, like, you know, I mean, we like drinking, we like gambling, we have our vices, you know, I'm addicted to gaming maybe, right? Who knows? But I don't necessarily think it's as bad as gambling. I think being able to straight up lose and with regards to gambling, being able to lose all your money as well as, I guess, go like basically borrow against yourself with regards to gambling, right? And then just digging yourself in a inescapable hole. I don't think that happens with card packs. It could technically, but I don't think that is like something that happens like all too often at all, or if at all. So yeah, I mean, it's predatory. I don't think it is one-to-one with gambling though. I don't necessarily think this is a hot take either. I think this is like something like everyone really has their thoughts on, right? But usually it's too afraid to say. But at the same time, I feel like if you think about it more and more, it's very clear that there isn't a one-to-one correlation and that it isn't as bad.
Oh, you disagree? Okay.
I disagree 110%. Card games have operated the same way for so long.
Okay.
This is soft gambling. This is not hard gambling. And even loot boxes are not even remotely as bad as the gambling that we consider illegal. Can it be bad? Sure, but anything you overindulge in can be bad. It doesn't mean that like just because card games have a random chance, even though it's not completely random, and as we know from people who pull cases, there are ratios to this, like it's not even remotely that bad.
I don't necessarily think that's the right way to like counteract that, right? It's not as bad, or it's not remotely like as bad, but like why, right? Why? What goes further into that, right? And for me, it's because you actually do get a product, right? You do get some kind of toy, and the fact that it's just really hard to dig yourself in a hole with buying card packs. It's really hard to borrow against yourself and dig yourself in an inescapable hole, right? I feel like that is generally why, right? That sounds exactly what the company want to hear. Yeah, pretty much. It's like the appealing to like, oh, this is the way it's always been. Well, okay. Well, at one point in time, slavery was very normal, right? At one point of time in our history, slavery was very normal. That's the way it's always been. We've always had slaves. Does that make it right? No, right? So like this argument of like, well, that's the way card games have always been. That doesn't necessarily make it right, right? Now, that being said, I don't think it's one-to-one with gambling. I just think it's just really hard to dig yourself in a hole that gambling typically puts you in, right? Does that make sense? So yeah, I agree with the overall decision, like, oh, it's not gambling, but I don't agree with his reasoning.
So for me, I think I'm kind of like sideways thumb. I think that they are a form of gambling, and I do think that it can be like,
it's like one's hard gambling, one's soft gambling. I don't. There's like, what are your definitions for that? What is the difference between hard gambling and soft gambling, right? At the very least, you want to elaborate that, and you kind of want to like understand and set a baseline for it.
Kind of a scummy thing. My thing with it is just that like Yu-Gi-Oh cards are fine to like indulge in, like opening packs and stuff, if you know what you're getting into. I think you kind of know that like the average amount of value from like opening packs is gonna kind of be like not great, right? Like on average.
And no one's saying that you should be risking your livelihood on the chances of pulling a card.
Right.
You definitely shouldn't be doing that. But what kind of a card game doesn't have chance?
Well, I guess the alternative.
I think like the stakes aren't as high, right? The stakes aren't as high with card packs. Like no one's thinking that they can buy card packs and the promise is that, or like you have a chance of opening $1 million card, right? The thing about gambling is you always have a chance of, there's always a chance in gambling that you come out super rich, right? That is like that there is a chance, right? And that chance and how astronomically low that is what's predatory, and the fact that the consequences are so much dire. In card games, just the stakes are a lot lower, right? The stakes are a lot lower so that people don't dig themselves in a hole. So you don't hear people gambling away their life savings to open like $1 million card, because that just doesn't exist, right? It doesn't exist. So yeah. Opening packs aren't zero sum like gambling. Yeah, it's not zero sum, but also just like the idea behind opening packs isn't as large as gambling, right?
What some people might suggest is that like you can just buy the set as a whole, which is something I saw some people talking about in the replies. Like I just buy for $50, I just get one of every card in Duelist Nexus, let's say. That so you don't open packs with a chance of plinting. You can just get like just a set in one go. Why not?
Come on, man. That's not card gaming. That's not card games. I mean, if you want to buy like anything like figures or comic books or anything else in life,
I don't know. I mean, I think that's just the business model. Like it's just that you buy packs.
And I'm not against buying singles. I buy singles. I do it whenever, because I'm
against
a huge
buying
collector of
singles?
things. And for things that are chance,
Whoever's against buying
I
singles
always
is
tell
dumb.
Paul, chance doesn't exist with me. If I want it, I'm going to get it.
From Rhyme Style, my turn means my turn. If the game further keeps going in the direction where it's our turn, it'll kill the game in the future.
Okay, I think there is a lot of merit to that, but I don't think it will kill the game. Like, I think I understand the sentiment. I understand that Yu-Gi-Oh players don't like it when you interrupt their wombo combos, right? I totally understand that. I understand that the concept of our turn is, you know, basically interaction, a dialogue between from player to player is not very popular. I totally understand that. I understand that's not Yu-Gi-Oh's typical wheelhouse. Personally, I like our turn decks. I like Tier Elements. I like Sky Strikers. I like being able to control. I like that there is a dialogue. I like that there is room and opportunity and basically situations where they create misplays and they create a more diverse, a deeper game, right? Where there are ways people can misplay, right? I do like our turn decks, but that doesn't mean like, oh, will it kill the game, right? That doesn't address like what he's saying. So will it kill the game? I don't think it'll kill the game. I think the only thing that really kills the game is if you have like rotation, or you tell someone that they can't play their elemental heroes or their blue eyes or their their Dark Magician decks, their pet decks, right? I think that's the only real thing that will kill Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't think anything aside from that is going to kill it, because Maxi is in Master Duel, let's say, right? And Maxi is the most bullshit card. It's the most hated card in Master Duel, but everyone still plays the game, right? I feel like there's a lot of things Konami can get away with that the Yu-Gi-Oh community is unfortunately very resilient to. I feel like the Yu-Gi-Oh community is very tolerant of a lot of things, and I don't think our turn decks are going to somehow kill the game. I really don't. I like our turn decks, and I hope they continue with this design, but I don't think it's going to all of a sudden like kill the game for people. I really don't. I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh players have a high tolerance level of things that exist in their game. Max C. I don't tolerate this guy. I'm just forced to deal with it because I love Yu-Gi-Oh too much to let the C ruin it. Well, Stray Inu, with all due respect, right? Doesn't that mean you tolerate it? If you continue to play the game in spite of Max C's existence, that means you do tolerate it, right? And we do, a lot of us tolerate it, right? You guys are still playing the game. If you guys didn't tolerate it, then you wouldn't play, right? I just hate the guy? Yeah, I mean, we all hate it, but we don't hate it enough, apparently. So
I think here he's talking about TR elements, fluanderies, not just that they're like maybe stopping one little thing that you're doing, but rather they are like playing out their combo, you know, searching cards, getting advantage, doing things during your turn.
I gotta agree.
Yeah, I agree too. I think for a certain type of player, those decks can be a lot of fun. Like, I know a lot of people speak highly of like the TR Elements mirror match. But I also think that it should not have to come at the expense of like everyone else's experience. Because if someone's not playing like one of those decks that does that, they just gets to summon Havness and then start milling and then start fusing and then start searching chain of things in your turn. That's not really any fun.
It feels like that you have to either be playing a deck.
I mean, it's fun for me. it's fun for me. And the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh is that something's going to be fun for at least one guy on the table. Something's going to be fun for at least one guy on the table. It's fun for me. You were right, Rednu? Yeah. Of course. No, they would, of course, 100% agree with that, because just think about like what Yu-Gi-Oh players typically like. I like to do my wombo combo. If you would stop me from doing my wombo combo, then that's like an offense on me. I hate that, right? That is typically what it is, because 99% of Yu-Gi-Oh decks are wombo combo. Let me get my Negate City. Let me put my Floodgate City on. Our turn decks are a very unpopular thing, right? Just think about how Yu-Gi-Oh is designed, right? Yu-Gi-Oh is one of the biggest card games to exist. So how Yu-Gi-Oh is designed should tell you how most Yu-Gi-Oh players would think, which is, I like to do my wombo combos, right?
At hard counters, decks like TR Elements, decks like Fluanderies, in order to play at a pace at all. Because the issue with decks that play on both turns, you get outpaced if you only play during your own turn, and they have plays during your turn and during their own turn.
To me, that's the thing, is when like I'm playing against Tier on Master Duel, and like they summon Havness and start doing things in my turn, it kind of disrupts me or whatever, and then my turn ends, and now they're starting their actual turn.
Yeah.
And my deck doesn't play by those rules, where I just get to like literally search and combo in their turn. And so it's feeling like they're getting 2 turns.
You know,
well, you know what would fix that? Is if you had more our turn decks. Yeah. Yeah. That would be great, right? If they maybe release more archetypes that play on our turn, right? That's my solution. that's my proposed solution.
A lot of people, they don't talk about their experience with tier playing against other decks. They talk about the tier mirror, where it's fair.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course it's fair, right? I mean, like, to an extent, there's a coin flip and everything, right? But, like, of course it's, like, somewhat balanced in a way, right? Because it's, you know, they both play on both players' turn, and they're playing the same deck, so.
You know, I saw some people talking about this on Reddit, actually, the other day. And there was one person who was saying, like, well, that's just kind of how, like, Yu-Gi-Oh's evolving. That's, like, kind of the power creep of it. And they should make more decks like it, because it solves the problem of, like, the go first, go second issue. Which is, I think, an issue in Yu-Gi-Oh! The
Yes,
whole, like,
it is.
You
It
know,
does.
if you get to go first, you can do so much uninterrupted stuff. And
That's cool that he mentioned that.
Has to deal with it.
It does
so
go
in a way, this
a way
could
ahead of
contest that.
Yeah.
But I think the only issue is that any deck made before these decks is kind of powerless. Waifu cards,
Right.
like Dragon Maids, Tiara Elements, Labyrinth, etc., suck ass art-wise. Yu-Gi-Oh! Used to have such a distinct art direction that was unequivocally theirs, and now they all look like the DeviantArt front page with how poor the design choices and art style are in comparison.
Okay, so I think Rukalos looks good, but I agree. Kitkilos and some of the tier limit monsters don't really look that great. Dragon Maid, I can kind of see that, but then wait, what? Like, I don't get it. Like, it's just waifu cards suck ass art wise, so they just don't like waifu cards, or they don't like cards that feature, you know, female protagonists or whatever. Basically, I understand what they mean by waifu cards, right? Like, no, like Labyrinth, Lovely Labyrinth, Lady Labyrinth, they look really good. Lovely and Lady are so detailed. They're so good, right? I love their art so much. And they have such a really good theme in the Labyrinth traps too. Sky Strikers, I agree, Sky Strikers don't really have the best art. I honestly don't think Sky Strikers have the best art at all. Dragon Maid, yeah, it's like, it's kind of whatever. But I like Rukalos. Rukalos looks good, but aside from that, tier elements itself, they don't look that great. I think I would have to agree with that. But that said, I just feel like this speaks a lot about what his preferences are. But yeah, I mean, I could agree. The art's kind of whatever. But I don't think the other art, like, for other archetypes are that much better, to be honest. Striker's theme is really good. I like Sky Striker's flavor. Like, the flavor of Sky Striker cards and, like, the theming of what they do. I love that. I do like that. The expression of, like, what they're doing, right? I really enjoy Sky Strikers. But yeah.
Harrison.
I'm actually here with this. I'm here.
Sideways?
I'm
Okay.
here. I'm a known lover of old school Yu-Gi-Oh design. I love my like creatures being ugly. I liked my monsters being terrifying.
Yeah.
And I liked my spells feeling mystical.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Sure.
I'm an old head. What can I say?
Same.
However, I really think that's actually just now Yu-Gi-Oh's style.
Look, yeah.
Yeah, I think Yu-Gi-Oh style has changed. I think we're a deck of robots, waifus, and dragons. That's how
Those are the three.
that's Yu-Gi-Oh now.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think that's, like, a change, though. Like, Magnet Warriors, right? They're an old archetype. They probably was mecha back then, too. And Dark Magician Girl was since the beginning. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has always been about dark fantasy, waifus, and mecha. That's always been Yu-Gi-Oh! That's always been Yu-Gi-Oh's core three themes is dark fantasy, waifu, and mecha. So we've had that thing forever. Harpies, yeah, harpies have always been waifu, right? We've always had them. So I don't think this is like a new thing. This has always been Yu-Gi-Oh's identity. I don't agree with, like, it wasn't even in the tweet. It was something that guy mentioned, and I don't agree with that. I don't think this is like something new, right? Yeah, we've always had waifu decks.
like
I mean, so this is coming from somebody who, you know the types of decks I play. I play
Waifus.
Labyrinth, I play Exorcister, I play Rika, I play Witchcrafter. I do still sometimes feel like Yu-Gi-Oh's waifu thing has gone a bit far and that they all kind of run together.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many of them, and
There is.
it kind of makes it hard
It's a
to
core
distinguish
theme
from,
of
like,
Yu-Gi-Oh!
your average
It's not
mobile
new.
game or like anime protag. Like, I don't love that part
it
of
does
it.
feel like they have to introduce
Dark Magician Girl, Nurse Fairy, right? It's always been anime waifu. There's always been anime waifus in Yu-Gi-Oh!
like a waifu-esque archetype almost every year.
I look at things like Amazonas. I look
Yeah,
at things like
Amazonas,
Harpies,
exactly.
And some of those like older monsters, even like the Guardian Angel Jones and
Yeah.
you know, that sort of thing.
The good old
Or like
days.
Gravekeeper Spy. They still felt kind of like they fit within that Yu-Gi-Oh look and feel, and they can
Yeah.
still feel terrifying and threatening. And I just don't know that, like, all the monsters now, I like them, I just don't know that they really feel like monsters, per se. I feel like they're more like heroes, like in a hero game, like League of Legends, Overwatch, like that kind of...
But it's
Yeah,
never
they're
been that
they're
way.
Champions.
Yeah, like they're like
They're-
champion, like,
yeah.
you know, and that's cool. And I will say with Trap Tricks,
But then what is, like, Vel'Koz a champion? Is Cho'Gath a champion? You know, it's like they're just characters, and those three themes have always been core to Yu-Gi-Oh's design.
that's too far. This is
Yeah,
from Dire
Cyber
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Angels.
The game would be healthier if we could have 2 copies of a card as the max instead of 3, forcing less consistent decks.
The game would be healthier if we could have 2 This is fun. I like this video a lot. I should like go on Yu-Gi-Oh Twitter more. But this was like in response to his tweet where for hot takes. The game would be healthier if we could have 2 copies of a card as the max instead of 3, forcing less consistent decks. I don't think so. I think that just ruins the identity of Yu-Gi-Oh! Personally. I think that just ruins the identity of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is about consistency. It is about searchers. It is about wombo combo, do turn 1, and break my board turn 2 player, right? That is like the core fundamental of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's how it's been for the last decade, if not more, right? Like, that's just what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. So I don't think having less copies makes the game healthier. Like, how do you make a toxic game healthier, right? How do you make a game that is toxic at its core healthier, where the core of the game is about making wombo combo that stops the opponent from playing, right? That's the main objective of Yu-Gi-Oh! That's the main core objective of pretty much every Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck, right? That's what it is, right? Even tier limits that say, oh, play on our turn, but I'm going to make Rukalis to stop your special summons. I'm going to make Sulliek to stop your monster effects. I'm going to have Crime to stop your everything, right? Even tier limits that do play on our turn is still about stopping the opponent from playing. It's just a different flavor of like when they stop you or how they get that, right? So I don't think it'll, like, what is healthy? What is healthier, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Is at its core a toxic game, and people like it for that reason. I like it for that reason, and I don't think that should change. Like, if you want the game to be Edison, if you want the game to be, you know, draft, a different format, like, sure, but those are separate from Advanced. Those are separate from the standard Yu-Gi-Oh! That we do play, right? So I don't think, I don't agree with this take. I think this is totally wrong. I feel like this is just, even the public would disagree because they don't want their deck to be less consistent. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what do you think would be the most consistent deck with that role? Probably tier limits, because tier limits already have so many semi limits. I've been playing Digimon. It feels weird to only have 3 max now.
I can't quite put my finger on it.
No,
it just
I don't
feels
agree.
wrong.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
I will say this. This answer definitely did the assignment. Like, this
Yeah.
is definitely a hot
That is
take.
That is a hot take.
So my take on it is, I don't think it's like the solution,
No.
but maybe it's like the sadist or the curiosity in me.
Yeah.
I would love to see them try.
You know what?
Right? Like, or let's just have a limited format. Can we just bring, like, Battle Kit 3 to Master Duel? Can we just have Draft in Master Duel, please? Like, Modern is unfixable. You have to do an entire overhaul. Yeah, and then at that point, it's a different game, right? It's just Highlander. Yeah, Highlander or Singleton, right? It's like, that's not... I feel like that's just not core Yu-Gi-Oh! You know? Yeah. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is all about archetypes. Once you take that away, once you take the consistency away, you basically take away the appeal of Yu-Gi-Oh! And so the only way I feel you can take away or remix the appeal of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is by introducing different game modes, like Edison, like GOAT, like limited formats with Battle Kit 3 or Draft, right? I don't think you solve standard Yu-Gi-Oh! Standard Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the way it is for a very, very good reason. It's because it sells and it works.
Going to sideways, because I don't disagree with the idea.
Like, that's the thing.
It's just
it feels so
I don't
foreign.
think 2 of is the way.
I don't know enough about other card games to say, but I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of the more consistent things.
Yeah.
By far.
There's already not like a resource system, so you see it, you play it.
Yep,
Yu-Gi-Oh! is
exactly.
crazy consistent.
So I think in that
You have
way,
searchers
putting it-
everywhere.
like decreasing the amount would be pretty nice, just to like maybe slow decks down. One issue I might be foreseeing here, though, is that I think it would still hurt lower tier decks more than it hurts high tier decks.
Yep.
It's my experience that casual players are far more toxic than competitive players. I've received countless personal insults and even a threat or two for playing meta decks, yet casual players will say that competitive players are toxic for simply playing a strong deck in ranked.
That's interesting. I think it depends on the crowd. I think it depends on the people, but I do understand like where he's coming from. I totally understand where this guy's coming from. It's because casual players hate it when they can't do their thing. And if you're playing a meta deck, well, guess what? The meta deck is likely to stop them from doing their thing. It's likely to stop them from doing their wombo combos, right? So, of course, like casual players are going to be the most hurt by meta decks, by things that stop them from playing, right? And so when they're the most hurt, they're going to lash out. Right? They're going to lash out and they're going to be, toxic or basically just tell you you're a piece of shit. Right? So, like, yeah, I can totally see that. Because competitive people are typically going to understand more things about the game as a whole. The fact that it is luck-based, it is a card game. The fact that there are probabilities that you have to manage, right? Even in Yu-Gi-Oh, where it is the most consistent card game out there, in my opinion, there are still a lot of probabilities you have to manage, right? So, like, that, in that sense, like, I think, yeah, I can understand where this person's coming from, but I think it heavily depends on who you play with and who you're interacting with. But yeah, I mean, casual players are going to cry the hardest when they can't play the decks that they want to play, because the decks that they want to play are typically bad, right? And if a deck, and it just goes back to core. Fundamentally, it just goes back to Yu-Gi-Oh's design, right? Bad decks are not allowed to play. They're just not. Weak decks are always going to get stomped, right? The best decks are going to make their best boards on turn 1 and stop the opponent from playing. It's just a natural course of how this game is designed, right?
Okay.
Oh boy, this one's always fun.
I have a lot to say to this. They're not wrong, but there's a reason why. Because when you're playing a tier 2 and tier 3 deck into a meta deck, that loss feels bad. Yeah. It's way worse to be playing a bad deck into a good deck and lose versus having 2 good decks playing and losing.
Yeah.
Because you get stomped out.
Like, those people can be bad, but I think that it tends to be the people who are like the actual real, like where they truly do not actually know what's even going on in Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. Mm-hmm. They're just kind of like blindly shouting that this game is ruined, it's so terrible. I quit back when they made synchros because it ruined everything. They don't even actually really know what Yu-Gi-Oh is today.
Yeah, but those are the granddads shaking their canes at the young folk.
But the thing is, those are the people that will get like really nasty. Like online and comment sections.
We all know, don't talk to grandpa once he's had a few drinks,
I do think that it is best to just not even, like, that crowd sucks. I'll say that there are 2 crowds of people.
That crowd, that's the majority of your player base, dude. That's the majority of your player base. It's not even back in my day. Just think about, like, any of the, just think about any casual player, right? I would say Nova is fairly casual, right? She thinks Sky Strikers are toxic, right? She doesn't like meta decks. She hates tier elements, right? That's just what it is. She's not toxic herself. She's not, like, obviously being very disparaging towards people or whatever. But it's just, like, her sentiment, her feelings are, I hate meta because meta doesn't let me play. And that's true. It's a true statement. It's a valid statement. So, that's just how the game is. And that's how how the feelings are naturally going to occur, right?
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Thanks for the host, by the way, Nova.
I feel like really can get bad. It's that level of hyper-casual kind of Yu-Gi boomer, we'll say. I don't like that term that much. It's that sort of person, and then it's the person who's getting good at Yu-Gi-Oh! And that kind of has an expensive deck, but they're still sort of losing, and so... Because, like, the very best Yu-Gi-Oh! Players tend to be pretty good sports, or at least, like, they're nice people. It's those people who are, like, right underneath that kind of get elitist about things.
Yeah.
That, say, like, you shouldn't run this deck, and you suck for this.
The elitists are also a huge issue, too, and that's where I get a lot of, like, that's where I get a lot of like my like what I don't like about Yu-Gi-Oh community is I don't like the elitism. I don't like it when people are like, why don't you just read the card? It's like, fuck, dude. Well, how many cards do you want me to read? Right? Or why don't you like why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? But they do it in like in a sarcastic way. Like when it's a genuine question, I understand. Makes sense. But when they do it in a sarcastic way and they're like trying to basically say you're a dumbass without saying you're a dumbass, right? That's the people I really don't like, right? That is the people I really don't like and I can't really tolerate. And you see me ban them like on impulse in my chat, for sure, you know? So, and it happens a lot with Yu-Gi-Oh! Because why? Because in Yu-Gi-Oh! Knowledge is the greatest determiner of your strength, right? And it is because this game is so consistent that having that knowledge and, you know, going through all these experiences is so, you know, it is so rewarding, right? And it creates such a huge disparity in power gap, in power levels, right? So, yeah, it makes sense that people get really full of themselves when they know a lot about the game. And personally, I don't like those people more than the casuals. At least with the casuals, I can understand where they're coming from. With people who are full of themselves, I can understand where you're coming from, but I just don't like that part of you, right? I can understand where you're coming from, but I just fundamentally dislike that part of you. So.
The best player at the locals.
Yeah, the big fish, small pond effect. Okay, next take. The literal text formatting of Yu-Gi-Oh card effects makes the game significantly more accessible than needing to memorize a whole bunch of keywords like what Magic does.
I agree. I half agree, half disagree. So what I agree is that keywords are not going to fix Yu-Gi-Oh. Keywords are not going to magically fix Yu-Gi-Oh. In fact, I think keywords would serve to just complicate Yu-Gi-Oh even more. Because there's just so many variations of effects and what they do. Negate the activation versus negate the effect, right? From now on, everything is banished, or like during either player's turn, they have quick effect, they have excavate, right? And so they have been trying to put in keywords, but I feel like there's just so much variation in what Yu-Gi-Oh cards do, and like how they perform and how they interact with other cards, that there's just no way you can keyword them all. And if you tried, you would just serve to make the game more complex and confusing. I don't think in Yu-Gi-Oh keywords are going to magically solve everything. I think keywords do not really belong in Yu-Gi-Oh personally. Could they have more keywords, like for quick effect? Maybe, right? Like the fact that they have, instead of during either player's turn and whatever other offshoots of that is just being said quick effect, I agree with those, right? But I just don't think you're going to get a better game from keywording everything. And it doesn't make any sense. That being said, like, keywords are good. Like, if a game was designed to use keywords and designed to have less text, fundamentally that is just an easier to read. It is a more readable game. It is a more understandable game. It is more, I feel like it's better designed in terms of readability. So I like Magic, I like Hearthstone, I like games with keywords, but that's because they were designed with it at the forefront. When it comes to games like Legends of Runeterra, personally I think there's way too many keywords and it kind of gets a little confusing. So it's I don't think it's an end all be all. I don't think it fixes everything, if that makes sense. I think English Yu-Gi-Oh, like TCG Yu-Gi-Oh can take a few pointers from OCG with the numbering of effects, but at the same time, I think Japanese as a language and with the alphabet system they have, hiragana, katakana, and kanji, I think they just have that advantage over English and other languages, right? So I don't know. Again, just to sum it up, keywords won't fix Yu-Gi-Oh, and but that being said, I think Yu-Gi-Oh could stand to improve the way it formats text. There was like a mod in Master Duel at one point where every sentence just had another enter, right? Had another line below it. And that made the game so much more readable. It was so much better. But they just don't have that space in paper, and so they don't do that in Master Duel because it would create too large of a disparity between it and paper. I think it would be difficult to do for sure. I do not even know how you would make keywords in Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah, there's just way too many variations of effects. Yeah, I use that mod. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh effects are too nuanced to use keywords. Yeah, I think keywords are amazing, but Yu-Gi-Oh has sort of built stuff into a corner where it can never use keywords. If they want to add keywords, it need to have done it almost a decade before. Exactly. Yeah.
Correct. And there's just one thing I'll add to it. I used to think it was like bad because it's wordy, and I still do think cards could afford to be like less wordy.
Yes.
More so these days, I don't like I just think they need to format it better. Like literally like just readability, like bullet points.
Yes, bullet points
like
would
numbered
be
effects, so we can just separately see
king.
What like this effect is, what this effect is, what this effect is. Because the way that it is right now is that Yu-Gi-Oh cards effects are just one long paragraph.
Yeah, it's a one block of text.
There are no line breaks.
It's one block of text, and it's so
specific cards. And then there's always that like you can only activate the effect of blah 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 the blah 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 once per turn.
Yeah, and that's always all over the place. I wish that was just, there was more consistency. Like, either have it at the way beginning or have it at the way end. Why is it sometimes in the middle, you know? And it's sometimes in the middle because it only applies to, like, the following effects or something. But, like, sometimes it's just, it just blows my mind why that can't be consistent. And you know what they're doing, actually, with Rush Duel? They literally have it segmented. They have the first part of the text being summoning conditions and the second part of the text being effects. And so that's what I'm saying is like Rush Duel is everything Yu-Gi-Oh wants to be in terms of like how to fix Yu-Gi-Oh, right? And so I have a lot of faith in Rush Duel in terms of its future success, and that it is an opportunity for Konami to take the lessons they learned from this game and improve upon the franchise as a whole, right? Or well, at least Rush Duel is positioned in such a way that it can take the lessons from Master Duel format, from Advanced format, and apply them into their game.
And it can get hard to parse, so I think that improving formatting could help a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't really have anything to add. I'm just gonna say I disagree because I ain't reading all that.
Oh, okay. You just don't want to read.
I just don't read.
I will say, as someone who's been trying to kind of pick up Magic, one thing I used to think keywords were the answer. I'm not so sure anymore because it does mean you have to like learn the keywords and like go and look them up, and so that can actually be more.
Yeah.
And because Yu-Gi-Oh has so much variation of effects, keywords will not be able to solve it. I hope the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel devs will test the bullet points in the video game, like giving us the option for it. If it gains success, then I believe that's the time for them to apply it in the paper game. I don't think they can ever apply it in the paper game, Siggy, but I do agree that having the option for Master Duel, I think that would be really good. And I think, honestly, Konami needs to think about making Master Duel like the main way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because at the end of the day, you have to know, or you have to understand that there are just more people playing Master Duel. There just is, because Master Duel is free to play, it's super accessible, it's super free to play friendly, and it's on your phone, it's on Steam, it's everywhere. So more people are playing Master Duel than paper. Just on a fundamental level, that there's no way that's not true. And so they have to, I think they should make, they should make improvements. I think they should make quality of life improvements that are aimed towards Master Duel, and I think they also shouldn't care too much about the disparity it creates between paper and Master Duel. Because at the end of the day, I think more people are playing Master Duel, and you just need to cater to your larger audience.
Magic's keywords are a pain, as when you're newly entering, like me or someone. I basically need a glossary just kind of on the side when I go through Magic cards, because there are so many. The game's so old and there's so many keywords. And the thing is, Yu-Gi-Oh! If Yu-Gi-Oh! Started keywords today, it would have to have a lot of keywords.
The amount of retroactive, it just wouldn't work.
It
wouldn't work. Now, that being said, when he mentioned about Magic, I don't agree that you need a glossary for Magic. I don't. Because the thing is with Magic, unless that card has multiple keywords and has a long text box, which typically they don't, but unless that is the case, Magic cards typically have maybe 1 or 2 keywords, and they explain to you what the keyword is on the card itself. They have enough room to explain to you what the keyword is on the card itself. And that in and of itself is already like so much better. And you only need to, like, if they don't, you only really need to know like a handful of keywords, like trample or death touch or lifelink, right? Or first strike or double strike, right? So like you don't really need to know that many, and usually they explain it to you on the card itself. So
it would be a bit of a nightmare, but you pick and choose what your problem is.
Yeah.
The term
Pick your
Yugi Boomer
poison.
is unconstructive and irritating as hell. Old school Yu-Gi-Oh and modern Yu-Gi-Oh are two fundamentally different games, and both have their audiences. It's goofy to act like one or the other is objectively bad.
Yeah, no shit. I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's like, yeah. I mean, it's an ironic term. It's just an ironic term. If it's used literally, I don't know. I feel like it's just a joke. When people say Yugi Boomer, I think it's a joke, and I don't think it's very offensive. But I feel like if you take it seriously, there's probably something wrong with you, personally.
Easy thumbs up.
Yeah.
Like if you take it seriously and you take it as an offense, I think there's something wrong with you.
It's easy thumbs up. The whole Yugi Boomer word, I think it was a joke at first. The more and more I think about it, the more I just find that words like that aren't really helpful. It's like a generalization. It kind of becomes one of those like insults you just throw at somebody to completely dismiss their point of view. Mm-hmm. And that's not helping anyone.
I mean, I agree with that. Sure.
I mean, what, the boomer insult, that's the entire point of it. It came out. So Yugi Boomer is it's the same thing, just to dismiss an older person or a person with an opinion that you can attribute to like being older or old or being an old fogey.
MBT says, you already know. Just go.
What?
Wait, I don't
He says rotation format.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, MBT.
No. That's cute that he actually like is able to interpret that from that GIF. I did not understand what he was saying at all. But no, I don't think rotation works in Yu-Gi-Oh. Why I don't think rotation works in Yu-Gi-Oh is because Yu-Gi-Oh's main appeal is being a pet deck game. It is a pet deck game. Okay? I need to be able to play my Dark Magician, my Blue Eyes White Dragon, my Elemental Heroes, my like what else is there? My Synchro Spam deck, right? Junk Synchron. I need to be able to play my decks. Right? I need to play my nostalgic anime decks. I need to play the decks that I like to play, right? Yu-Gi-Oh has hundreds of different characters. Yu-Gi-Oh has hundreds of different characters that all come in the form of archetypes. And if you're telling someone that they can't play their archetype, their favorite character, then you're killing a large part of your audience. And usually with rotation, you're telling people that they can't play a lot of characters. You're telling people that they can't play a lot of them. And rotation is great from a competitive standpoint, from someone who cares about the card game as a game or as a strategic game fundamentally, right? Rotation is better for that. Absolutely. Rotation is better for those type of players who like to think about the game as a whole, who don't just like to wombo combo, like who enjoy the strategy part of Yu-Gi-Oh. For sure, rotation is. But that doesn't constitute a large part of the player base, and I don't think it's good for the game. As far as introducing it as an alternate mode, sure. I don't think it'll ever take off, nor should it ever be the de facto mode. But as far as alternate modes of play, yeah, I mean, I think Yu-Gi-Oh can use a lot of alternate modes of play, because at this point, it's clear that there is a demand for it. It's clear that there is a demand for alternate game modes of Yu-Gi-Oh. Just look at the fact how GOAT format was spawned on its own. That Edison format is a thing, right? That there was Battle Kit 3, but even then Battle Kit 3 was an official product, but either way. Like, I feel like there is a market, I think there is a craving, there is a desire for alternate ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and why not? Why not when you have 11,000 cards in the pool, right? It should have alternate modes of play, but Konami is lazy. Konami is lazy, and they don't want to, I guess, invest in like different ways to market the game, in different ways to organize tournaments, in different ways to organize competitive play. So I think they are just taking the easy route and just letting you make the formats. Why would they put money into it, into marketing or into advertising events or creating time slots for events? Why would they do that, right? When they already have you, when you're already buying their cards, right? So I don't think, I don't know, like I guess why is because they could potentially make more money, but that's the thing is like, I feel like that would require too much from Konami. I feel like that would require too much from Konami in terms of like thinking on how to monetize and market alternate format players. I feel like fundamentally that's just something they can't really wrap their head around and that they just won't ever do, right? I kind of want to read some of your guys' comments on that. Yep, I say this all the time. Imagine purchasing a game with 30 characters in it. Your character is even on the cover, and everyone is saying you can't play them. It sucks. Yep, exactly. That's exactly what it is. But I wanted to play my Blue Eyes. No, it's rotated out. They didn't get support this year. Sorry, they didn't get any retrains. They didn't get any reprints. Sorry. It's like, but my Blue Eyes. I think they do solve the alternate format in Master Duel with the event somewhat though, because in the end, limited cards such that also will be solved eventually. Yeah, no, I think with Master Duel the events are a good push. They are a good thing. I just think they need to do more. I think they need to let the events and the alternate formats always exist. I think they need to make other queues. I think they need to make like other de facto modes of playing. I think they need to officially back it and push it, and it's not just a limited time event. No, like you could play limited, you could play draft, and we have this cool little format for it, and this cool little card pool for it, you know? This cool little rule set for it. I think they just need to push that, but it's just, I think it's, I don't know. I think they're lazy. Draft would be sick, yeah. Battle Kit 3 and Master Duel would be sick. It'd be so cool.
Yeah, rotation format.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think this is a pretty easy. I'll say this. I don't think that rotation is the answer to every last little thing in this game.
It is.
No, it's not.
And I don't think that it should be the way that everyone's forced to play. But I think
now that being said, rotation solves a lot of problems with Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Yu-Gi-Oh's core problems is that, well, it depends on like how you look at it as a problem. Do you see it as a problem, right? Yu-Gi-Oh's core problems is power creep, right? It is wombo combo turn 1, turn 2 game. Right? It is a turn 1, turn 2 game, and that's about it. Whatever happens after turn 1 and turn 2 doesn't really matter. It's really been decided on turn 1, turn 2. The complexity and depth and the high skill floor for Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a huge problem. And rotation does solve that, because rotation solves power creep. It allows them to print lower power level cards. It does absolutely do that. So if that was a thing, it does solve that problem. But again, even with that insane complexity and depth to get into for new players, even that is not really perceived as a problem. It's not perceived as a problem when you realize what you have to sacrifice in order to fix it. Insane complexity and high skill floor is not a problem to Yu-Gi-Oh players when you realize and you explain to them what they have to sacrifice in order to fix it. And what they have to sacrifice is their pet decks. And if it's a question of sacrificing their pet decks, no one is going to take that trade. Very little Yu-Gi-Oh casual players that constitute for a majority of their player base are going to take that trade. So it's just not going to work.
I think that honestly and truly, it would help with a lot of things, and it should be an option. And by an option, I mean not something that Konami keeps at arm's length and like kind of likes to half acknowledge or whatever. I think it should be a legitimate, like, we support this at locals. This is how like YCSs are played, or like some regionals or something.
Like, I'm actually just surprised they haven't implemented, only because it would make future card design so much easier if you're planning to only be pitting a certain amount of cards versus a certain amount of cards.
I think rotation would be a good thing for you to at least experiment with. It would solve so many problems where old stuff creeps back up and it's broken, like Smoke Grenade of the Thief, right?
Ooh, what a thought.
In addition to like archetypes that kind of overstay their welcome, Dragon Link, like Dragon Link's not even like the only one, but there's been plenty of archetypes that kind of stick around for a long time, and you can make the argument, I suppose, that, well, it's good that a deck can be like viable forever. And I think there could be a format where you can do that, but certain stuff just needs to go.
Like, I mean, many games that have rotating formats, they still have eternal formats next to them where you can play your one deck forever.
From Zach Butler, players have zero concept of game balance and understanding how to actually market the game for the key demographics in different regions, which is why community feedback should rarely be taken seriously.
Yep. No, I agree with this. I think maybe it's a hot take. I don't know if like how many people disagree with this, but I agree with this. I feel like most players don't really have a good understanding of business. I don't think they have a good understanding of marketing. I don't think they have a good understanding of balance either. Like, most people are wanting to ban Kikkalos, right? Okay, you ban Kikkalos. Okay, Kashtira runs free. Okay. Oh, well, then ban Kashtira. Okay, well, then you do that, then Dragon Link is really good. Okay, well, but then ban Bestial Regained and Lubellion and the Bestials. And okay, well then something else will fill its place. It's like it doesn't. There's no balance, right? People don't care about balance. People care about being able to play their pet decks. And the reality is that what is on the kill list for you being able to play your pet deck, there's a lot. There's a lot of archetypes on the kill list for that to be a reality, right? So I don't think anyone, I think majority of players have no idea on like what the game, how the game should be balanced. But at the same time, I don't think Konami has a good idea either. And I don't think Konami is trying for a balanced game. I think Konami knows that more powerful decks, more powerful cards sell, and that's just been their business model for 25 years, and they're not going to change it, right? So, yeah, I don't think majority of player base understand like how they would balance the game, and I don't think it has a place in Yu-Gi-Oh either. I think Yu-Gi-Oh has always been this way. It'll continue to be this way, and there's just not anything anyone can do or say to change it. I think that's why, with regards to Master Duel format and Advanced format, Konami is just kind of letting it go. They're not making any anime. They're not trying to get new players into the game. They pushed back that 2-player manga box to January because there's not a lot of money going into bringing new players to play because it's hard. It is hard to teach this game, and so they are putting their efforts and money towards bringing people to new games that they have an opportunity to design better, like Rush Duel.
Woo!
Scathing.
Ooh, he came for y'all neck, boy.
And yet, I agree with him.
Oh, man. He's not wrong? No.
And so here's why I agree
He's not
with
wrong.
him. Because the truth is, I actually was making this analogy earlier before we even recorded this video. Everyone in Yu-Gi-Oh's got some problems, right? You have a problem
Not
with
personal problems, but problems with the game.
Well, maybe they have personal problems.
Oh, we're not going to say that, though.
True. Everyone in Yu-Gi-Oh's got a problem with Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Somebody's upset about the current format. Kashtira's too broken. Someone's upset about the general kind of just state of Yu-Gi-Oh. Too many long turns and broken combos. Someone's upset about short prints. Someone's upset about hand traps. Someone's upset about ban list. And somebody's upset about the price of something, right? And we're kind of beyond the point of like just the ban list being able to fix it or just one product or something being able to any given person, their issue is like the issue.
Paramount.
Like my issue is the only important thing. The things I care about are the real problems with this game, and anyone else be damned. And
well, yeah.
I get it, right? Like,
how else would anyone really think, right? People speak from their perspectives generally, right? They're not really thinking about how other people are thinking about it too. And that's not really a fault. It's just that's just how it is.
You've got the things that are important to you, but I think
also in life you better be the best advocate for yourself and your ideas because no one else will be.
That not enough people really consider that like any decision or any change that has to be made in Yu-Gi-Oh will affect everyone. And because of that, it's hard to really take any one person's opinion more or less than anyone else's.
You know, I say Yu-Gi-Oh players, they can't see the forest for the trees. We're looking at this big tree that's blocking our point of view, and it could be Kashtira, it can be
Maxi and Master Duel.
Yeah, Maxi and Master Duel. And you want us to chop down your tree? We got to chop down everybody's little tree, and that doesn't actually solve anything. There are bigger problems in this game than those specific issues.
A really important part of this video, you know, discourse in general, is to remember that your opinion is only your opinion. it is not like a fact. That goes for me, that goes for
That's
you,
true.
that goes for
We actually
everybody.
haven't shared a single fact in this video.
Yeah, like by and large, what we're saying is just, you know, it's just what people think. Like you might think that your opinion is really well reasoned, right? You've got all this evidence, and here's why this being banned would be good, or this coming back would be good, and this would like be healthy for the game, and this deck shouldn't exist. But it's only your opinion. And I think the moment that you realize that your opinion isn't necessarily like right or wrong, but rather just yours, and that other people can have theirs, and that we're all kind of just in a space together, that's like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's important. It sucks because it does mean that change is always going to come slowly from Konami. Like, I don't think that things will always happen as quickly as people maybe want them to.
But I think that's because
one thing I kind of want to say in regards to that is that, yes, we are only sharing our opinions, and yeah, we are only like, we can only have an opinion, right? Even me thinking that Yu-Gi-Oh! Paper Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to die in 5 or 10 years is just an opinion. But it's still something that I believe, and I have good reason to, and that I have a strong conviction towards. But of course, everything can be an opinion. But I feel like the excuse, or rather like this sort of response to people's discourse is like, well, that's just your opinion, bro. Oh, well, but that's just, it's just like, of course it is. What else could it be? What else could it, oh, well, you can't tell the future. You can't tell the future. There's no, you don't know everything. I mean, of course, like you can't say that's what it's going to be for sure. It's like, no shit. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not a diviner, right? I am a person with opinions, and I happen to think, at least, that I think a lot of my opinions through. And I invite people to tell me how I'm wrong so that I can learn what your opinion is so that I can change mine, or maybe my opinion wins and, you know, I feel a little good about that at the end of the day, right? But I don't mind changing my opinion. I don't mind hearing different opinions. And I feel like the excuse, or like the saying of like, well, that's just your opinion, or you don't know everything, I feel like that's a cop-out. And I feel like it's just to discourage discourse, because the idea is clear to me, at least, is that you just don't like talking about things. You don't like discourse. You don't like discussion. And that's fine, but that's what it is. Don't pretend like we don't know that we're just sharing our opinions.
the problems Konami works on are much grander, more macro.
The real message behind, well, that's just your opinion. The real message behind that, a lot of the times, is I don't like you talking, so shut the fuck up. And I'm gonna say whatever the fuck I want to say.
Scale than what we want fixed now.
Right.
Konami's not too bothered by your feelings about Maxi, and they're not too bothered by your feelings about Cash Tira. This game has to continue. It has to sell. It has to grow.
And they have a lot of audiences to cater to. And so the thing that you think would be perfect, yeah, sure, you want to play, tier dittos all day long, but there's a whole group of people who don't. And there are people who want old school Yu-Gi-Oh back, and they think that they should just ban every combo card in the world. But there are people who enjoy that.
Yeah.
And what makes
Majority
your
players
stance more valuable than their stance? Like,
Yeah.
really?
Virtually any opinion that has an opposite opinion in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, it might as well be moot.
Yeah. And I guess, it's not to say that it's not worth talking about and, like, sharing, but just something to keep in mind. All in all,
This is just a guy's hot take. I wouldn't even put it like that. I didn't even want to come for y'all like that. I wouldn't have said all that.
all in all, I'll just say this. I agree with the take. Which ones did you agree with, disagree with? Keep it respectful,
And,
please.
yeah, but don't be afraid to come for us too.
Yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you want more content like this, we do have a podcast, The Pod of Greed.
Yeah, it's named after this guy.
Yeah, over on our second channel, APS Amplifier, new episodes every Thursday. We talk for hours about this game. So
Yeah.
if you want more of this, that's where you should go.
Go ahead and leave your hot takes in the replies underneath this video so we can do this again. Pass turn.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That was great. That was great. I love this video. I love this video. They should do more of these. They should do more of these. This is great, guys. I really enjoyed myself. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. No, this was a great video. This is a great video. What's your hot take? I feel like I had a lot of hot takes. It's like rotation's not gonna fix everything, right? Yu-Gi-Oh players like to wombo combo, right? Oh, the game will be dead in 5 or 10 years. Yeah, that's probably my hottest take. Is that core, standard, Master Duel, Yu-Gi-Oh will be dead in about 5 or 10 years unless Konami does something drastic to save it, which I don't think they have. They haven't shown any interest in, and I feel like they've only expressed interest in developing other projects and other IPs in diverging away from standard core Yu-Gi-Oh. So I feel like if you don't feed a plant, if you don't water a plant, if you don't feed a child, if you don't, you know, sustain something, it's going to starve and die eventually. They haven't fed standard core Yu-Gi-Oh with anything but cards. But nostalgia has a time limit. It expires. Of course, everything dies, but I feel like 5 or 10 years is a good amount of time to probably gauge it. Yeah. But yeah, no, this video was really good. Make sure you guys click the link and like and subscribe to them if you haven't already. I think this channel is very good. They always pump out Yu-Gi-Oh content, very good Yu-Gi-Oh content, and I especially loved this video. I think we got a lot of good discussion out of it. It was fun to react to it. Also, let me know what you guys think in the comments.